Hi everyone, welcome back. We are rounding that curve and almost in our straightaway for this class. Today we are going to talk about sex and gender. And even though I say sex, it's not what you think. Sex is something else altogether. In epidemiology and research in particular, sex is talking about your biological determined sex. So, what you were born with downstairs, that is your sex. But even though you are born a certain way, doesn't mean you identify as such, doesn't mean that you go through your entire life as the sex you were born with. And what about hermaphrodites? But that's not a part of this lecture today. This lecture is about sex versus gender. Make sure when you do research, you hold that distinction. It's the correct thing to do. So when you speak about the differences between genders, what you really mean is the difference between sexes or sex differentials. So that's going to be the difference between men and women, but sex differentials. It's very specific because they're talking really about what you're born with. Gender, on the other hand, is what you are socialized into being. So my sex is I'm a woman. I was born a woman. My gender is I'm a woman because I was raised to be a girl and I identify as being a woman, but not everybody is like that. So just know the difference between sex and gender. So when I ask you about someone's sex, I'm talking about your biological organs that you're born with. When I ask you about your gender, I am talking about what you identify as or have been socialized to be. So in this week, you see a cartoon that says sex is what you're born with, gender is what you're given. So you see a boy and a girl, and the boy is given an action figure, the girl is given a different type of doll. So now that we have that down, there's a difference between sex and gender. Let's talk about that. I am, as many of you, I'm very lucky that I was born a woman. I love being a woman. And in America, I love it. If I was a woman in a different country, my health outcome might not be as great as what it is here because of the different advantages I am afforded as being a woman living in America or any high-income country for that matter, specifically Western country for that matter. If I was a woman born in Norway, even better, because in Norway, the gender inequality isn't as great as it is here in America. That gap is a bit smaller, so men do more childcare duties, more household duties, and their gap in pay between a man and a woman, isn't as big as it is here. More women in politics, more women in leadership positions. It's just more women. So, and men get a lot of things that women get, like paid paternity leave, for example. So it's great to be a woman in America, but it's even better to be a woman in some other countries, is what I am explaining to you. And then if I was to live in a country like Saudi Arabia for many, many years before, I wouldn't have been able to drive. So here you see distinctions. The higher educated a woman is, typically the smaller her family size. So with more education comes a smaller family, which tends to be good for the children's health, tends to be good for the woman's health. And I did research on lone mothers, which was covered in Reuters News a few years back. And what I showed around the world for mothers, for women in particular. Being a lone mother was contributed to the highest probability of having poor health, was being a lone mother, and that was typically probably attributed to economics as a reason for that. And being a coupled mother was pretty good help for your health, being coupled. So that's how we could look at that economics issue for a number of countries, not all countries, but a number of countries. Being child free, and I say child free because it does not necessarily mean childless, was actually in a lot of countries the best outcome for health. I wonder why. So what we know from keywords before with life expectancy, a lot of you shared with me that you now know that women tend to live longer as compared to men. And in a lot of epidemiology studies, we measure something called self-reported health. So that's when the survey asks you, how is your health today? And you answer back. Women typically will answer that their health is poor as compared to men. When you look at the sex differentials and you compare men to women, women report being in poorer health as compared to men. Yet, women outlive men. So one of the reasons people think that is because women are just more in tune to their bodies and their feelings and are willing to share it as compared to men. Because life expectancy says something different. But what we do know is that self-reported health correlates very highly to mortality. So if you're saying that you're feeling really, really, really awful, that typically corresponds, is positively correlated with mortality. So it seems to be a spot-on measurement of a person's health. During COVID, what we have seen is that women tend to get sick and become long haulers more often than men. What we see with men is that they don't even make it to the possibility of being long haulers. They are dying in higher numbers as compared to women. What I want you to remember from all this is that there is a difference between sex and gender. That there is a difference between life expectancy and health outcomes between the sexes. And that depending upon what country you live in as a woman, has a substantial impact on your health and also on your socioeconomic status. I want you also to know that women tend not to be believed as readily as men when they are seeing a doctor. So for those of you who plan on becoming health professionals, keep that in mind when you are having a woman as a client, that you need to listen to her. A lot of times their symptoms are discounted or overlooked, and that has been proven again and again in research, or discounted as being related to a mental health issue like anxiety. In the video that you watch for this week, you will see that being a woman can also mean a death sentence depending upon the country that you're in. You don't even get to make it to life. A lot of times you are the child, the baby or the fetus is aborted before they get a chance at life, simply because they are a girl. So it can be a very dangerous word, hearing the sound "it's a girl," not necessarily a joyful word as it was for me when I heard it was a girl with my daughters. Something else that I would like you to realize is that being a woman in our country, in America, means that you're paid less than a man on average. Being a woman of color means that you're paid even less. Being a Black woman means that you're paid less. Being a Latino woman, a Latina, means that you're paid even less. So remember that when you see all of these women around you, that they are probably being paid less than their male counterpart doing the exact same job. And on top of that, she's expected to perform on the same level as a man in her job, yet she also has a household to take care of. So she's doing the work of a man outside of the home, doing the work of a woman, inside of the home. So she's double burdened and she's being paid less. That's the life of a woman on average in America. So thank you for going through that lecture with me on the difference between sex and gender. I wish you a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time.